And here we are live again with another live Q&A with Kobo Writing Live. I'm really excited this time to welcome my European colleagues back because you guys were here before with the newest edition, Benedict. I don't think you were with our live Q&A the last time.
No, I wasn't.
So I forgot to do this the last time, and I made a note to do it this time to say bonjour, hello, and ciao. I can't even say the hello properly. Hello. But I forgot to do that last time. So thank you guys for joining in all of your respective countries. And for anyone that's viewing, let us know where you're coming from. If there's anyone in France, Italy, or the Netherlands, that would be very interesting. Love to see in the comments. And be sure to ask any questions that you have for our wonderful team here. And we can focus on book selling and just anything that's going on in Europe, basically. So to get ourselves started, we already have one person from Italy, Michelle, so that's great. So can you all introduce yourselves and let us know what you do at Kobo? So I'm going to start with you, Ruth.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Ruth. I work for Kobo and I'm based in the Netherlands, Amsterdam, Netherlands, I should say. I started working at Kobo, I think 2 years ago now. And I'm responsible for Kobo Writing Live in the Netherlands. And I'm also in charge of our Dutch Kobo Originals, which are the ebooks and audiobooks that we produce ourselves at Kobo.
Nice. Lucia, I'm going to go to you next because there's another person tuning in from Italy, and we have somebody who is in the UK, but also Italian. So we're lots of Italian representation here. So Lucia, why don't you tell us what you do at Kobo?
Yes, I'm based in Italy, of course, and I'm Originals and Catalog Manager for Kobo in Italy, which means that I'm responsible for relations with publishers and with Kobo Writing Live authors, nice. Italian ones, of course.
Thank you. And we have somebody in Montreal, so that's a good segue into our French teammates. Camille, how about you tell us what you do here at Kobo?
Sure. Hi. Bonjour, Camille. So I'm based in Paris, and I've been working for Kobo Writing Live since the past 8 years. And basically, what I do is try to develop the platform and the author base, author titles, and of course, author sales in our European countries.
Nice. Awesome. And Benedict, our newest team member, can you tell us what it is that you're doing? And you're in Paris as well, I believe?
And no, I'm not. I'm in the south of France in Marseille. Yes.
I forgot.
Near the Mediterranean Sea.
I block it off because it's too beautiful for me to think about.
I understand. I know. Everyone's jealous. So I joined Kobo on February. I am the newbie of the team, and I'm a self-publishing coordinator. So I work with Camille on our self-publishing department, and I also work on the Kobo Original catalog.
Nice. Well, welcome. I'm really happy to have you guys here, and we're already getting some questions, which is great. But so kind of first to start, I just wanted to kind of touch on the growth that we're seeing in Europe, especially in terms of like digital reading and how that was accelerated in the past year. So I was kind of wondering if there was any notable trends that you guys saw in kind of ebooks in general. Camille, I'll start with you.
Sure. So there is definitely two trends, I would say, both for digital reading and also writing. I'm talking about this because we are just in the season of our writing competitions. We organize generally 2 writing competitions in France. One is a thriller short story with KWL, which is the biggest thriller festival here in Lyon, and the other one is Talent de Demain, which is a novel writing competition, and the winner gets to be published by Prélude, which is a Hachette imprint. And both of these 2 competitions this year have been, we always see a lot of tractions, a lot of submissions. So there is, they say that there are 1 out of 3 French people has a manuscript in their drawer, and apparently that's true because we always have a lot of submissions. Yeah, but this year, probably due to the COVID and the pandemic, we've seen that our submissions have been multiplied by 3 for both competitions. Yeah, so I think it's true. A lot of people had, just took the time and needed to write during this very special year and a half that passed. So it's really good because of course we are seeing a lot of traction also on the platform itself in terms of account creation. One thing that was quite impacting for both Benedict and me was that the tone of the books tend to be a little bit darker than they used to be. So probably it also shows that it was a bit hard to be in this uncertain world for a while. But well, we hope that now with the vaccination and end of the pandemic, hopefully we'll be also going towards more diverse stories. But yeah, that's very interesting about writing.
That's funny. I would have thought that people would be like writing more positive things or whatever, or like not getting into like post-apocalyptic and stuff, but it's entirely the opposite, which is so interesting.
Well, it's a difference between what people write and what people read. And so if we see a darker side in our authors when they write, on the opposite, the readers tend to go still to feel-good books. In France, it's really a trend that persists. We also noticed that the series have a lot of success, and we thought it might be the influence of Netflix, as we all binge watch some evening in our living room. But yes, so feel good when you read, and a darker tone when you write. That's what we saw.
Nice. We have a question here from Florent. This is probably for Cami. He's curious if we will renew the partnership with Bookellis. Do you think that that's something that will be renewed in the future?
So, well, the partnership unfortunately happened right before the pandemic, and so a lot of the things that we had planned to do with, especially with Fnac, which was also a partner on this initiative, to feature authors' books in Fnac stores and in book signings, basically couldn't happen at all. So for now, and this was just a first because Kobo never did anything with POD. We always focused on ebook and then audiobook, so on digital formats. So we wanted also to test in the first geo, where like France, where there was a lot of appetite for this. And now the pilot went to its end, which was 1.5 years. So it could give us enough numbers. And now we're really looking into seeing how it worked and also discussing the feedback from authors and see how we could renew it or make it different if authors needed it in a different way. And also we want Fnac to be on board, of course, because they're our partner, and we don't know yet how it's going to be with the book signings, like when their full stores will be fully organized with events as it was before.
Yeah, it's been such a changeable year. I think that it's unpredictable to see what will happen.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like, I mean, we haven't been doing any event for 1.5 years. There is the KWL Book Festival, which has been reporting to early July. So it should be our first event in real life for a very long time. Mm-hmm. And yeah, let's see. Every year in September, Fnac was holding their Salon Fnac Libre, so their own book fair. But it's been, well, last year didn't happen, and for this year, probably it's not going to happen either. So things are coming back, but little by little.
Yeah. And I just wanted to shout out to Tatiana, who's participating in the Talent de Monde, just butchering all of the languages, that is tuning in here. So under a pseudonym, but that's really great to see her take part.
Great. Hello, Tatiana.
So next, I'm going to go to Ruth in the Netherlands. Was there any trends that you saw in terms of writing or sales in the past year that jumped out at you?
I think it's pretty much the same as Camille and Benedict already touched upon. It's I think what's popular here from a reader perspective is the entertainment. I think the escape. I think that is something that's been very clear over the last year. People just want to escape from their house, mostly, I guess, and from sitting inside, and want to travel. I think what we do see here is that a lot of the books that perform well are about main characters who travel to foreign countries or to new places. I think that's a specific trend. But they just can't get enough. So they want extensive series. They want long books. It shouldn't be too difficult. I think they like if it's just an easy read. And from a writer perspective, I've seen that here as well. We have been receiving more manuscripts. People have been publishing more, which is great. But I do think people tend to put a lot of their own experiences in there. So I think that the tone of the books have changed a little bit. But I think that's interesting as well. I think a couple of new genres has arisen from that, like maybe a more darker romance genre, or which is very interesting as well. And that tends to reach readers as well. So it's not as though those books are not being read because they're not cheery enough. But there's just a lot more focus on digital reading over the last year, which is just a very exciting to see, and especially within Kobo Plus, which I bet we'll be talking about more, but within the subscription as well, where people just go on and on and on in what they're reading, and really discover the binge reading, which what Benedict already told.
Nice. So yeah. We do have a question about Kobo Plus, if you don't mind. No. They wanted to ask that it's based on the minutes read rather than spent reading an entire book. So can you maybe just break down like the minute read model and why we chose that?
Yeah, so we used to have reads in the sense that it was about a threshold of people reading, I think it was 20% of the book. And we switched to minutes when we added audio options within Kobo, because it was just a more simpler or practical way to look at the reading habit. So what we do is we look at the minutes that readers have specifically spent reading your specific book. And every month, based on the entire reading habit of the readers within Kobo Plus, every minute has a value. So the minutes that people read in your book are calculated against that value, and that's what you earn for your book. So it's a bit more fair in the sense that you get actually paid for every minute that people read in your book. And it's the same for audio. So that's why we switched it. So we have the same way of paying out the consuming of audio as the consuming of reading books as well.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting as well to note that you're getting paid if people reread your book. And I know that especially people that are in the subscription program are like avid readers, really the fans of the authors. So they are probably more likely to actually like reread a book that they really like. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. So if people go back in your book or whatever, yeah, you really get the total payout of what people spend in your book. So that's very interesting for sure. And you get, I think you get rewarded for if you write a bit of a longer book and people actually finish it to the end, you really get every minute out of it. So I think that's interesting as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to stay with you, Ruth, just one sec, because Serena Bowen, hi, Serena, has a question. She's just asking if we could speak more about Kobo Originals. And I know that Lucia and Benedict, you guys touch on Kobo Originals as well. But can you speak a little bit about what's going on in the Netherlands and what's involved in when you're looking for an original title?
Sure. We started producing originals, I think 2-3 years ago. And the idea is that it's exclusive content. So it's books that we produce and we exclusively publish them on Kobo and through our book partners. And what we're looking for, well, the thing is, it's interesting because we are basically a publisher and we have our own bookstore. So that's a very interesting combination because we know our customers so well, so we can see really well what they like. So what we try to do, of course, is to publish books that are whatever the readers are demanding or really want to read. And then next to it, of course, we also want to try and surprise them sometimes, because sometimes readers don't even know what they want to read. So, of course, we try to publish some more diverse work, or we always are keen to help new authors publish work. We basically, at least mostly focus on series, because we want to make sure that we produce what I just said. Like we produce everything in Kobo Plus immediately as well. So we want to make sure to engage with those customers as long as possible. And there's an interesting overlap with Kobo Originals and Kobo Writing Life, because obviously we always are on the lookout for new talent. So anything that performs well that's published through Kobo Writing Life gets our attention. And we have been working with a couple of Kobo Writing Life authors in producing Kobo Originals with us. So that's very exciting. And we're always open for new ideas. So people can always send their ideas to us if they are interested in maybe cooperating and doing an original with us.
I love that. It's so interesting, and people might not realize what we have going on within Kobo in each country, because we are always kind of banging the drum about how we're a global company. And I'm always saying that, we have you guys as booksellers on the ground to really tailor the book selling experience and with the writing experience to those specific geos. So yeah, just thanks for all being here. I think it really highlights that very well. So Lucia, we're going to go to you now with all of your Italian people that are watching this. I am going to unmute you. Can you tell us of any trends that you saw in the past year with writing and reading? It might be similar to what we've already talked about, but is there anything that jumps out at you?
Honestly, I didn't notice the same change that Camille and Ruth and Benedict were talking about. I mean that I didn't see any darker side in authors. And in fact, I was talking to a popular author here of romance a couple of months ago, and she was telling me that she started writing a new book, and the story was taking part in place in during 2020, so during the pandemic, and her readers started to say, I want to read it because of the... So, also authors are quite, they are aware of that. They are aware that readers are not looking for any contents that have to do with the pandemic. So I didn't see any dark content or something like that. And the genres and the series which were strong 2 years ago or last year are strong also now. And what we have seen here in Italy is that new genres and new publishers have grown. So, for example, non-fiction, we had a big growth of non-fiction, and also talking about publishers of middle and little publishers, which is good.
Nice. So let's stay on Italy for a little bit here. And so you work very closely with the partners that Kobo has there. Can you talk about them a little bit, and how working with the partnership is really key to attracting readers?
Yeah, sure. Yes, our main partners here are Mondadori and Feltrinelli, two bookstores whose names are also linked to two of the most important publishers here in Italy, Mondadori and Feltrinelli. And something that maybe it's worth pointing out about the partners is that they are online bookstores, but also physical bookstores. And they always make sure that their communication is consistent between online and physical locations. This means that Kobo, with its devices and also content, digital content, has a strong presence in the brick and mortar locations too. So the readers have a multi-channel experience with these partners, and they are also very focused on acquire new readers. Their marketing campaigns are always very dedicated and focused on that. Yes, so it's good this union of online and physical bookstores, which allow also, for example, authors with good contents to be present in physical bookstores.
Yeah, I think anytime there's more readership anywhere, that's always good for authors. I'm wondering if do you have any stats about how many Italians have a manuscript in their drawer?
No, honestly, maybe I don't want to know that. I don't know.
Oh, no problem. Well, thank you, Lucia. So we are going to loop back to France. So Cami and Benedict, I know you've been working so closely with Kobo Writing Life authors. I mean, Cami, you've been doing this for some time, but especially this year on like different promotional opportunities. So can you tell us a little bit about kind of what promotions authors can take advantage of in France, or what you've been doing?
Yeah, sure. So it's true that we are not using the promo tab as, for example, for English, but we are doing a lot of promotions supported by the merch team. So, and we try to do them throughout the year. There is also a seasonality. For example, here in September, we have what we call la rentrée littéraire, which is the big season of literary prices. And so it's really a big time where, of course, the press is also talking about the books. So we also decided to have our rentrée for indie authors. And that's a promotions we've been doing with the merch team for the past 4 years. And we also extended it. First, it was France only. Then we extended it also to Quebec. And it's usually a big success because we are presenting a selection of the latest releases from indie authors in the French catalog to our readers, and it's good to see that this has become a rendezvous and that it's peaking, and our readers are happy also to see other voices in this period that is always very intense. So we have two big moments. One is La Rentrée in September. The other one is usually March because it's the Paris Book Fair. So those two moments are really the key promotions we are running. But this year we also started running additional promotions for categories. So we are having one. We are working right now with Benedict on the first romance targeted promotion in July. And then we'll have another one for thriller or sci-fi fantasy later in the year. And we are doing this because we see that these genres are really growing a lot. We've seen a lot of new titles coming in, and we'd just like to show the diversity of our catalog in each genre to our readers.
Yeah. Absolutely. So we have a question here from Sky. Hi, Sky, coming in from Scotland. Is there a form to notify the French team of new releases? Like we have a similar one. I don't know if we have that, but that's a great idea to create it if we don't. Do you guys do that? Usually we get for example, authors reach out to us through the Writing Life at kobo.com email. But yeah, we could actually put together the new releases form so we can get updated.
That would be a good idea.
Mm-hmm. That would be, yeah, that's really handy. And then another question from Serena Bowen. She's just asking, when it comes to different partners, so say Fnac, Cami, because you're probably the most familiar, are the buys happening on Fnac or are they happening on Kobo? Like the purchases of ebook?
So it depends because we are in a very integrated partnership with Fnac. Readers can connect with their Fnac account or with their Kobo account. So it depends if they are a Fnac customer. So usually it's really both platforms. We are seeing buyers from both platforms. on those stores.
And Benedict, a question for you in particular. Just when you're kind of pulling books for these promotions and you're like scouring Kobo to try and find the newest French talent, what are you looking for in a book when you're kind of trying to find which ones to promote?
Well, we look precisely to the metadata, actually, and we know writing is the most important for the author, obviously, but one advice from us would be to be careful with the cover, with the resume, with the title of the series, etc., because it's really important for the life of the books. And it will help to gain visibility, which is really important, because when you decided to self-publish yourself, you kind of want to be read, right? It's a risk you take, and so it would be a shame that if you're not visible on the store. So yes, big advice would be choose carefully the cover, the title, the resume. It's important. It's the first thing that readers will read about your book. So this is first, and of course communication is important. So feel free to talk about your book on social media, on a website if you have one, and to mention this everywhere you can. Actually, that's what we are vigilant of when we decide to pick a book here.
Yeah. And do you think, this is kind of like a broad question, and I know it's maybe too broad, but when people are going for translations, do you think that they need to consider a European style cover? Or I guess, does it depend on what their cover already is? Like, I know some people do that, but then there's like the additional cost involved in having another cover. But what's your opinion?
Well, I understand that the cost is an important point, but we have different texts between America, Europe, Asia, and if you can allow it, yes, consider offering different covers. It's quite easy to see the differences between covers in America or in France, actually, and it's so important that if you have the money, don't hesitate to do this, because it will probably help your books.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. That's right from the merchandisers directly. So Erin just had a question. So if anyone wanted to get in touch with you guys, is it okay to just email writinglife@kobo.com? That's the easiest way. Yeah. All nods all around. Great. So I'm going to pop back to Ruth. Because I think the Netherlands is really interesting in a territory that, because it's such a relatively small country, it can be overlooked for where people consider ebook sales. And also interesting because customers read in both English and Dutch. Like, do you have stats on like how much, or is it 50-50, or is it probably like 70% Dutch, 30% English?
I wouldn't dare to say that from the top of my head. I don't have the stats on me. It would be interesting to dive into. But if I look at the best performing books week over week, it is dominated by the Dutch titles. So at the end of the day, I think it really connects to what we talked about earlier, is that people, and I think that might be said for the digital reader, but especially I think in subscription, people are looking for kind of the easy way sometimes. So they want to relax. So they don't want to they don't want to have to go through too much fuzz to read a book. So I think if there's a Dutch option, they would go for the Dutch option. But because there's of course such a big catalog of English titles, and English, I think as a country we are very English focused. So most Dutch people speak English fairly well, and they can read it fairly well. So if there's a book only available in English, and they're interested in the author, then they wouldn't hesitate to read it. But I think if you have the means, it's always going to be interesting to provide a Dutch version of your book.
Yeah. Well, you notice a lot of authors doing translations, and Dutch being a popular one in particular. And like I was saying about the Dutch market, that it can be sometimes overlooked that I think when indies think about translations, they think about French, they think about Spanish, they think about German. But I think it's good to consider Dutch because you know we have such a large audience there.
Yeah, for sure. And that's it. I think Kobo really is the thing here in the Netherlands is that we don't really have big competitors on digital reading right now. So we are sort of the market leader here. So that's why it makes it so interesting to publish with Kobo, because you will really reach, or you have the opportunity to reach, like the major part of the digital reading audience. And I think that's how a lot of people sort of use the Netherlands as well, where it's like it's a really good reading country. You can, and I think you can use it for experiments really well. So I think it's definitely an interesting market, and interesting to do it with us because we have a lot of really exciting readers who are always happy to also jump into like new books and to discover new authors. So you don't have to be an established name to reach an audience here.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's like good that we don't really distinguish between how books are being published. So it doesn't matter if you're independently published or traditionally, our customers just see them as lists of books, which I think is key. Susan Warner has a question asking what genres are popular in the Netherlands?
I don't think it's fairly different than the genres you see in digital reading and other geos. Popular are thrillers, romance, of course, and feel good. I've seen a lot of feel good over the last year performing really well. So yeah, I would say those three genres all day, every day.
And
I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Yeah. You guys have a focus on thrillers at a certain point of the year, right?
We do, but that is mostly based on, we have this thriller week, or I don't know if it's a thriller month by now, that is very much focused on like the physical bookstores do that very actively. And within Kobo, I don't, like, of course we always tag along with that. I don't necessarily know. I would have to ask my colleague who is a little bit more into those stats, but I have the feeling that we have like an all year performance, and it's not necessarily that there's a peak in that week or that month. Overall, we tend to have a peak in the summer, and that's the most important peak in reading.
Nice. I just think it's really interesting that Netherlands has like a time period for thrillers. That's not something that we see here in Canada. Like,
we love like these weeks, these theme weeks, but it's mostly it comes from like the conservative publishing, or I don't know if conservative is the right word, but like the physical bookstores, they love to do that. On our platform, we tag along, and it's fun to do, but it's not necessarily, I mean, I wouldn't say you need to focus on that week if you want to release your thriller. Like, I would say do it at the beginning of the summer. That's more interesting, probably.
Okay, that's good advice. We're going to go back to Italy with Lucia. Sara Zama had a comment saying that she works in a small publishing house in Verona, and she'd like to know more about how she could possibly collaborate with Kobo. What would your suggestion be?
She can reach out to me directly, simply. So that, yes, because I'm, so that I can know which publishing house is, and I'm really interested in knowing more about that, really. So yes, I can. It's lucia.zitelli@rakuten.com. She can reach out to me at that email address. No problem.
And if that's something that she doesn't remember or can't spell for whatever reason, just at writinglife@kobo.com will also get to Lucia. Exactly. So don't worry about that either. Cool. So I was wondering if you could talk to us. I know that there's a VIP program available in Italy.
Oh, yeah.
Can you talk to us about that and how that's beneficial for authors with Italian books?
Yes, so the VIP program, it's dedicated to those readers who want to earn from what they read, meaning that the more books you read, the more credits you earn, and you can spend those credits on books, or also when you buy a new device, a new Kobo device. And an interesting part of this program is also that we provide the VIP readers with exclusive content, meaning, for example, preview of important new releases, expanded preview, and also exclusive books, novellas, and so on. And we also run some promotions where we include the Kobo Life titles too. So it could be a good way for authors to be known by avid readers. For sure, yes.
Nice. Nice. Thank you. The next question has come from a couple of people in the comments here, and it's for all of you guys, but maybe I'll go around. So with a lot of the authors kind of tuning in here, being interested in like the translation side, rather than necessarily be like native speakers themselves, do you think there's any, so we can start with you, Lucia, if books were set in the US, do you think there's any like specific genre or themes that wouldn't work? Like, are people in France interested in like a cowboy romance, or how would military sell in Italy? Like, is there anything, basically does just North American settings and content translate?
I don't know. I mean, because I think that an author also needs to look at what is underrepresented there. For example, I talked to a German author who is English speaking, Nadine Mutas. We also published an interview with her a couple of weeks ago on the Kobo Life Italian blog. And one reason for which she decided to translate her books in Italian is that her genre, which is paranormal romance, was totally underrepresented. So, and it's not that readers, Italian readers, are not interested in paranormal romance. It's that we have not so many titles in that genre. So I may say that the fact that a subgenre is not so popular doesn't mean that Italian readers are not interested in that. So yeah, I think that actually the most important thing you have to look at is what Benedict was talking about earlier. I mean, quality, and the cover, which is extremely important. It's nice. The first thing, totally.
Yeah. And I'm sure it has to do with like how you're marketing as well. Like make sure that you have like marketing materials in the languages, and that you're kind of making an effort, or even like segregating newsletter lists to have newsletters in each language.
Yes, exactly. Also, maybe also thinking about a possible collaboration with a popular Italian author. I mean, someone of the same genre as yours. They already have a reader base, and I mean, I think that cooperations could help a lot.
Yeah, nice. So Cami and Benedict, I want to ask you, in terms of marketing, is there anything interesting that you're seeing indies doing in France? Or anything of note?
So we've seen, for example, ads, of course, well, like any other markets, I would say. So Facebook ads, or we don't have BookBub. There is nothing really similar to BookBub, but indies try the different possibilities provided to advertise, and that's pretty much recent, maybe one or 2 years. So it's still new, and not all of them are trying, but some are experimenting. But otherwise, what I found very interesting is the most established authors are in the indie community have matured in their communication and marketing, and now each one of them has a different tone of voice to engage with their readers. It can be, for example, one of them has a hard time; she cannot sleep at night, so she writes these dialogues where she's talking with her insomnia, and it's and in the end, it's always about it's written in a wit, fun way, but in the end, it's always bringing something creative, and in the long run, it's like you recognize what she's saying. So they are not only talking about their books or their characters or what they are working on or their releases, but more about something more personal about their personal life, but which has, of course, a link with their writing, impacting their writing. Like some of the best ideas can come at night, or and I find that in this way they are, much more mature and of course engaging on a more personal note with their readers, with their fans, and that's also. That has also good impact because they are broadening their audience this way.
Yeah, it seems like it's like a sincere way of reaching out.
Yeah, exactly, because it feels like you are really, you are talking about what's happening in your life. People can also relate. That can also be used in some kind of small fictional text that the author will share. So I feel like it's bringing much more creativity and engagement.
Nice.
And especially this past year where we couldn't meet with each other. This kind of things, I've noticed this kind of new way of communicating much more.
Nice. And we see in North America that free books are still something that's really utilized as a marketing tool. Is that something that you're seeing in France? Like, are people starting to do like the free first in series as well? Can maybe Benedict, yeah.
Yeah, Camille will probably help me because I don't have much experience yet. But yes, we see the free ebooks used in as promos, and authors reach out to us when they do such a promo, and it helps us to give them visibility. They often choose like a short novel to do so, or if they publish a series after like 4 books, they will put the first one free, and it can help gaining visibility for sure.
Nice. Okay, that's interesting. It's always curious to see what works in each market. And I want to ask Camille one more question about kind of the French market, because it's always really interesting when we look at the sales figures each year. Like a lot of our best-selling books are French titles. We have some authors that are selling more in France, more in French than they are in English language, that are like American authors, which I kind of think is incredible. So what would your piece of advice be to kind of sell more in France?
It's true. It's totally true what you say. We are seeing a lot of international authors expanding into French, and usually when they do so, they come with many of them come with series. So I would say that especially if you are translating and going into the French market, it's probably easier to use series than to come with a one shot. And of course, as you were saying earlier, to market and to have a newsletter in French, to also create your Facebook pages in French, all the ways that you would engage with your local fan base, I would say, try to duplicate and to, of course, adapt it to the French market. So some of them can speak or write French, so of course it's easier. Otherwise, there are also now some people here who are working in PR and helping working with those authors. So I would say that, and of course they also reach out to us to let us know about either that they are planning to launch into French translations, or also they would like to test the market and see how it is. French ebooks, but also French audiobooks, because we also have now, the French audiobook catalog is still small, but it's developing. So that's also something to consider.
Nice. And you've spoken before about, because people speak French in so many countries outside of France. Can you speak a little bit about pricing, like the currencies available? Cami, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. So of course, well, we have our merch team is also working now more and more on what we call global French. So it's not only France, but it's also the territories where you can read and speak French. So of course, it's Belgium, Switzerland, which are close to France, and Quebec, which is also a big part. And Kobo being Canadian, of course, we also have a lot of readers from Quebec and authors. You were saying someone was connecting from Montreal earlier.
Mhm.
So we try the good thing is that with indie titles, usually authors can sell their books worldwide in all those markets. So which is not always possible with publishing houses when they are selling rights to some other publishers. So when we are reaching out to authors to do a promotion both in France and in Quebec simultaneously, we get good responses from authors just for this reason. So that's definitely something important. And when you're pricing your book, let's say in euro as your currency by default, just try also to keep in mind that you should optimize the price of your ebook or audiobook in also Canadian dollar and
Swiss franc.
Yeah, Swiss franc. Thank you.
Swiss franc.
Oh, I think that's really great advice. Yeah, global French is definitely somewhere that maybe people don't consider when they're just trying to tap the France market, you know. So I think that's great. So we're winding down here. There's 14 minutes left. I wanted to ask all of you ladies where your predictions for indie publishing in your geo, like where do you see things going in the next 2-5 years? So Ruth, I'm gonna start with you.
Sure. If I can add quickly something to the marketing, I was just thinking about two things actually. First is, I think, because it's interesting what Benedict said about if you're translating your book, you should also think about maybe adjusting your cover and like the tone of voice of the metadata you're choosing. And I think that applies to marketing as well. I don't think you're there if you're just going to translate your marketing campaign you're using. I think it's very important that you always keep in mind that the tone of voice that the market or the consumers in that geo are used to is a bit different everywhere. And I think all of us are always very happy to look at that with you. So if anyone needs help and wants sort of a local eye on the marketing you want to do locally, then they can always reach out. And also what I've noticed from a marketing perspective is that advertisement with like moving clips are always better for the engagement than static ads. Just putting that out there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. At least for the engagement, like people tend to engage better with like moving. In 5 years, gosh, like self-publishing, digital self-publishing in the Netherlands is still pretty small. And like you just talked to Camille about how you see foreign authors publishing in French and taking like selling books in French really well. We see that in the Netherlands as well. Like we see translations perform really well. And for a long time, it was basically the translations that were the bestsellers in our co-writing life hit lists. And I'm also very excited to see that I see more and more like local authors in there. So like actually Dutch authors publishing in Dutch, because those are like those were not that well represented, or not well represented. Those were just not here as much as the foreign authors who were translating their works. So I'm very excited about the fact that more and more local authors are finding out about digital self-publishing here as well. So I do expect that market is going to grow. But other than that, yeah, I think we still have a lot of growth potential for the catalog here in NL. So I just want to invite everyone to get their books to the Dutch market, and also basically to put them in subscription. Subscription is the future, people. Like we need to use subscription. It's great, and we are doing that very well in the Netherlands. So I think that is going to be, that is definitely, it's already the present, but it's going to be the future as well.
Yeah, and we had a question about like expanding the subscription program, and I would just say to keep an eye on anything that on Kobo's social or our blogs in the different languages that we have available, because we definitely are interested in expanding, and we can announce where, although we can't quite say at the moment. But like Ruth said, it's the future for sure. So I'm going to go back to France. So Camille and Benedict, where do you see indie publishing going in the next few years in France?
Just before answering your question, Tara, I wanted to mention also, you were saying that people should keep an eye on our news. They should also really check whether they have subscribed to our newsletter. Because I've been talking with several French authors recently, and we found out that even if they were publishing with Kobo for a very long time, they were not receiving our newsletter. So it's always good to just check whether you're and you can subscribe at any time.
Yeah, that's a good point out actually, is that there's newsletters available in all of these languages that that you guys have running that talking about KWL and Kobo. So that's for sure. If you're interested in receiving that, you should reach out to us and make sure you're on the subscription list.
Yeah, definitely. And so to go back to prediction, I would say that I just hate making predictions because it's always. But we are lucky because
it's just us, Camille. Just a little conversation between.
Well, and I mean, it's quite easy for this one at least because the English-speaking markets have always been ahead of us. So I would say that they've been showing us the path, basically, because the US or Canada, UK, and Australia, New Zealand have seen the growth that we're seeing now a few years ahead. And so I would say that for us right now, we are in a position where the ebook market is now really the growth is very strong. So it's definitely the moment to have your books in ebook format in French. But it's also interesting to note that the audio catalog, as I was saying earlier, is not yet as big as the English one. So it's also a good moment, whether you are a local French author or an international author interested by the French market. It's a good moment to venture into this market, just because it's easier, it's less crowded, so it's easier to be spotted in our French-speaking geos for ebook, for audiobook on top, as well as the ebook, I would say.
Great.
And when we look at what publishers are doing, they are working very hard on developing the market and their catalog. But I feel like there is still space, and there is a lot that can be done, especially on the indie side, for sure.
Yeah, I guess one thing we didn't touch on is actually the amount of hybrid authors that you have in France, because it's very similar to what we're seeing in North America, that most of your top authors are like a balance of traditionally published and indie. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, that's very interesting, because we see that some authors, for example, they were traditionally published in their early days, and when self-publishing started to rise here, they got a foot there, and now they are some of them fully are now completely indies. Some others are really going from one to the other, and there is also, much more flexibility, and the two are really working together. We know that French publishers are looking at the titles that are emerging from the indie community on the platforms. A lot of them have been then published by publishers. Our writing competition Talent de Demain, it's now the 5th edition this year, and our partner Prelude is very keen. I mean, they are very happy with the partnership and the fact that it's also helping them to scout a new author, and we are also helping them build basically the author's career, because the first two laureates are now publishing their second book with Prelude.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so it's, I mean, it just shows that both worlds are now really collaborating together, and so authors can have, I would say, probably the best of the two worlds.
Yeah, I love that. And we're definitely seeing more and more like authors in North America that choose like a specific series that they want to go with, either publishing themselves or with a smaller press. And it's really interesting to see that and to see how they can take advantage of like the different tools that that are provided to indies. So glad to see that that is happening in France too. Benedict, you're back outside making us jealous.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I lost the connection and it's better out there, actually.
Oh, no problem. Do you have anything you wanted to add about predictions of where you see things going?
Well, I didn't hear what Camille said. Actually, I'm pretty sure that she talked about the audiobooks that we think. Yeah, okay. So it was mainly about that, and to see our indie author becoming more and more professional, and about the translations. But since we already talked about it earlier, I'm not sure it's new, and I deserve to talk about it again.
No problem. We have a couple of questions about promotional opportunities in each of your languages. And as we don't have the promo tool available, I would just say to email writinglife@kobo.com, and then that'll kind of connect you with the team, and we can kind of start working on different promotions in different languages there. So finally, Lucia, do you have anything to add to my my prediction ball?
Yeah, I have a positive prediction, let's say, because first of all, I think that in Italy, expertise will improve, thinking about indie publishing, for sure. And another thing is that Ruth was talking about subscription, and this makes me think about the fact that for sure, and I hope so actually, publishing market and indie publishing market will be a more diversified one. We will see more possibilities in stores, platforms, business models, formats, and so on. Technology will play a big part in it, and will make authors' life easier and also cheaper to be. So authors will have the possibility of being professional authors with less money, for example, speaking about audiobooks. Mm-hmm. And so I think that we will see new models, new formats, new platforms, and so on. And which is important is that this will happen as a proliferation and not as a cannibalization. So no threats, no. We don't have to fear anything. Actually, it's simply that we will have more possibilities, and this will grow the market and will grow the reader base, the author base, everything will grow.
I mean, I think Ruth and I can attest to that with the subscription market that we're seeing, that it's been really growing author revenue in Canada and in the Netherlands, it being there for almost 4 years now. It's definitely adding to the market value.
Yes, it's true. It's true.
Well, guys, 12 points to everyone. 12 points. Italy, Lucia, we're going to go and watch the Eurovision in person next year. I was shocked to find out that she didn't know what the Eurovision was. Sorry, everyone, if you're not too sure what it is, but I'm a little bit obsessed. And it was held in the Netherlands this year, so me and Ruth were connecting about the Eurovision. I feel like Camille and Benedict, you also don't care about the Eurovision.
No, we don't.
No.
But we do. Oh, Camille, we don't
say that since I'm working with Tara, I've become more open to Eurovision.
It's the Irish connection. We're obsessed with it, and it was hosted in my little town. So yeah, we're very into
and
it.
we almost won this year. Also,
you did.
Yeah, second place. Not too bad.
Yeah, it was the most French song. It was just really like. Yeah, it was great.
Very Edith Piaf.
It was, yeah, for sure. Oh, well, thank you guys for joining me, and thanks everyone for all of the comments and questions. This was really, really great, and we'll have to have you guys back again because you guys were here last year. We'll do this year. We'll bring you back again in the future. And yeah, any final words, or we'll just wrap up?
Thanks.
Now you have to say bye in every. language.
Yeah.
Damn,
Did you
Ruth.
prepare that?
I did not prepare that. I know it's au revoir and it's ciao again, is it?
In Italian, you can say ciao. It's okay.
Ruth, what's it
You
in
can
Dutch?
say that here too. We say
Just
Doei.
Ooey. I remember that from the last time. I should have learned that as well.
Very good.
Anyways, well, bye to everyone. I'll say spawn. That's how we say it in Irish.
Thank
so.
you, Tara. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.